Hi guys, so this morning I ran into a problem with my old beat-up Super Nintendo that I modded to play Super Famicom games. It is an old, really beat-up one, not necessarily the best to use, so it's going to have problems. Definitely was one that was sitting in water and had to do a lot of cleanup when I first got it. But now I've run into a new problem. It's playing games fine, but in black and white. It's not showing any color at all. So we're going to go ahead and fix this problem. This is a problem that I've heard numerous people have with really old, kind of beat up Super Nintendos. Over the years, this is an issue that can crop up even on systems you've taken care of. Just one of those things with the age of the console. First thing you need to do is open this baby up, and there are 6 screws on the bottom here. 3 on the right, 3 on the left. So after you've done that, we'll turn it back over and pull off the top. And one thing that can happen, especially once the plastic starts to yellow, I seem to find that the controller ports kind of stick to the top of the lid when you start pulling the lid off. Right in here, you'll see that. So just kind of pop those off and put them back down on the bottom, make your job a little bit easier. And now you have the bottom here and just the plastic top shell over on the side. The next thing is the power switch, and there are just 2 little screws holding that in. Just loosen those up and pull that off, and just push it to the side without messing with the wires or anything. Next thing to do is pull off that eject tab, that big ugly thing in the middle there. It's very easy. You lift this up on the right hand side and pull it out. It comes right out. And then to get to anything else underneath this RF shield, you're going to have several screws here on each side. And just take all those out and lift it straight up. And the next thing you want to do is actually pull up this cartridge slot and check the pins connected to the board here as well, and just make sure everything's clean, nothing's bent or eroded. This one really doesn't look that bad. So that I cleaned it up when I first got it last year, so that is most likely not the problem with mine, but that is the first thing you want to check, is make sure your games are clean and the pins and everything are clean, everything's in good shape in the system, because that could be the simplest solution, is it could be just dirty and not actually have any problems. The next thing you want to do, and I didn't really get too good of a shot here because it didn't take me long to look, but make sure any capacitors, there's nothing that looks like it's kind of bulging at the top, or worse, even like leaking or anything like that. Everything looked fine here, so that was not an issue. And this is a 1991 North American model, by the way. If you have a later model of the Super Nintendo, it's going to look a little bit different on the inside. Same general idea here, but just notice that it's going to look a little different if you have a later model. Another thing to check, which you can't see too well in this lighting, sorry about that, didn't notice when I was filming, but you can see a little bit. Check the traces and make sure there's nothing on the board that looks like it's rubbed away or eroded or scratched, or that it's not something where something's just not getting a signal. That's another thing to check out. It's an unlikely issue, but it is possible before you go on to the next step. But everything looks fine here, so we're going to look and go down right here towards the bottom, and you'll see that little red thing right over there, and you're actually going to adjust that color pot. So you want to be adjusting this red color pot here to adjust the signal that's going to the crystal that is actually going to help you fix this problem majority of the time. It's not a dirty system, it's a clean system, and you don't see any obvious damage to capacitors or anything wrong with the board. I mean, the most likely thing that's going to be left is this color pot, and you definitely want to very, very gingerly touch the top of it with a screwdriver and very, very slowly turn it. I mean, barely at all. Don't do a full turn, just barely touch it and move your hand just slightly. And then you can put a game in and check and see if the color is working, and if not, have it while you're having a game in, do the same thing, just adjust the pot again, just a tiny, tiny bit, and I really emphasize that, tiny bit, until you see the color come back on. Put a game back in, and oh look, we have color. That was it. So this can be a fairly common problem as the system ages. Again, first make sure there's no real obvious damage and everything is clean. The most common thing is you're going to have either a bad cable or your contacts are dirty. Do all that basic stuff first, then open it up, and if there's no obvious damage, I see a lot of people are unable to figure this out because it is kind of an odd thing where it looks like everything's in good shape, everything's perfectly cleaned. If you do all that and you still have an issue with a black and white picture, this could be the problem. It does mean that your system is slowly aging and it's eventually going to be on its way out, but you can give it a little more life and have it working like new for at least a couple more years just by making this tiny little adjustment.